or maybe I can record from here. Record. Okay. Okay, I think I've started. All right. So last time we talked about how to read in the CSV, right? And also the Excel reader, so you have the data inside. Then we talked about how to like filter a part of the rows, how to join two tables together. And someone help me with muting people, please. Then we also did briefly how to create a plot, like different plots. I think it was showing it. So in case you didn't remember or you missed it, the YouTube video, we recorded it and it's already posted on the YouTube video. So today I wanted to start before my other colleague joins. We want to start with discussing about how to use GenAI to write code for you. KNIME can do a lot. It can make the plots, help you filter, but there are in real life situation of data analysis, there are situations that KNIME might not have some of the tools that you need. An example is, let's say you have a column that involves text, right? And within that text, there is a number in between. Maybe, for example, so like one of the examples we showed the last time, right? Let's say you have this sales information at the bottom, right? But let's say when the people were entering this data, they did not enter it fully as a number, but instead they wrote sales equals 261.96, right? Or they wrote, there is no, maybe there might be, and maybe you can use the string cleanser, but sometimes it might even be much more complicated than what KNIME can do. And in those situations, what you can do is you have to write your own Python code, right? You can do expression and maybe Austin will explain how to write your own Python code in KNIME later. But let's say you don't know Python, right? And you need to do that. So the question is, how do you do it? So that's why we added the additional aspect of that you can use KNIME to help you with that aspect. So we can use GenAI to help you write the code, and that's what we'll be talking about today. So briefly, I will just quickly go through a slide to talk about what is even GenAI. But before I do that, I want to make sure that everyone, I hope we have all, we have all created an account on ChatGPT. Have we all done that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everyone, is that a yes? Silent means yes to me. So, okay. So if you open the page, this is what you will see. I hope everyone is on this page currently. Okay, silence also means yes. All right. So you can start with typing something. So it's asking, what can I help you with?
Hello. Hello, doctor.
Okay.
So I don't know if any other person is seeing something else, but what I'm seeing here is the KNIME interface. That's what I'm seeing.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought I'm sharing that. Okay. Thank you for that. Let me reshare. Share page. You know what? Let me just share my desktop. So I switch anything, everyone will be able to see it.
Yes,
Okay.
this is
So
correct.
is it fine now? Okay.
Yes.
So is everyone here now on this page? So just go to chatgpt.com. And then I just want to know, be sure that is everyone there? Please, thumbs up.
Yes, sir. We are there.
Okay, good. All right. So this is where you can ask ChatGPT the question how to write code, right? So I can ask it, which I will go into this much deeper later, but I want to just quickly talk about what is ChatGPT? What's even doing, right? How do you relate? How do you communicate with ChatGPT? So I'm going to start with that right now. So let me start with my presentation first. Okay. So the way to communicate with any generative AI, so we call them generative AI because they have the capacity, they are like a model that was developed with all the languages, the word, all the text, that people have produced over the years that are just on the internet. They just train it with this model. And they use those information to train the model. So the model is like really smart in terms of generating text, generating information. Even it can generate, the latest ones can generate even videos, audio as well, pictures. You can ask it to generate it for you and it will do the same. Now, the way we interact with these models is called prompting or prompt engineering, which I'll just be talking about very briefly. There is more to this, but I'll just it's still very introduction I'm talking about. So example of Gen AI models is ChatGPT, which you've heard about. So what they did was they developed the model, then they created like a web page interface for you to interact with the model that's been developed. Okay. And the way you interact with it is also via text, so which we call a prompt. So the prompt is what you tell the model to do. So if I say, tell me your name, it would actually reply you. If you type that now currently into it would give you a response. So what you type saying, tell me your name, that is the prompt. It's the information which you are telling the model to do, right? To perform a specific task. Now, to get the best, so you need to, knowing how to talk to the model is extremely important to get the right output out of it. Now, when you give it an information, when you just give an information that is too generalized, like, that is not specific. For example, if I say, what is the color of the sky? You get very interesting response back. You know what? Let's try that. I think I can just summarize because of time. I'll just summarize my presentation as we are testing it on the website. Okay, so let's go back to the website now. Okay, so I said two different things. So my prompt is let's ask it, what is your name? Let's see what it's going to say. It says, I am ChatGPT, your AI assistant. What is in your mind today? So it always give you a response, right? If I say, oh, what is the color of the sky? It says the sky usually appears blue during the day because blah, 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 blah. Because my question is not really direct. It doesn't really know exactly, what I want. So to just give me some information. And then it says, would you like to know more about how this works? It gives me some. So the way we interact with ChatGPT is very important. And how you write the information is important. Now for the context of this topic, we're looking at how to use it to write a Python code. So or you can actually use it to write any code, whether Java, C++, you just need to tell it. So let's say, for example, I need to write a code or let me start with this simple, which is something I have done before. Let's say you can say, let's say you have a data, you have an employee, so I can say, imagine I have an employee data, right? That contains, so let's look through the employee data that we have that I already posted on the group, right? Okay, I think I have it open here. So the employee data has, what are the columns? I just want to get the columns that are there. Okay, so the employee data has employee ID, first name, last name, gender, department ID, salary, and hire dates, right? So let me tell it that. So imagine an employee, you imagine you have an employee data with the following columns, okay? And then I give it all those columns so they just put comma, first name, date of birth. Now, one advantage about with GenAI is that even if your spelling is wrong, it can still understand it. And date of hire, okay? Write me a Python code, write me a Python code or Python codes, will be more than one. What do we think we want to do on this data first? Write me a Python code to plot a Python code to make a box plot, for example, of the salary with gender. So this is even more complicated. I'm already starting. So let's start with the plotting. Let's start with something simple first with plotting. Now, I don't know anything about Python. All I'm just telling is I have this employee data. This is the column. I don't care what's inside. Just give me a Python code to make a box plot, right? Of salary with gender. So this, even the way I wrote this is not even really clear for it, because I'm saying, okay, I have a salary column there, right? Definitely. But I want to classify it by gender. Tell me how it varies by gender. So even now I'm saying it even more than I should have. So sometimes I need to put more information. But anyway, this is very simple. Let's just tell it to do that. Now it's giving me an answer. It says to create a box plot of salary by gender, it tells me all the libraries I need. It creates an example of a data for me, provides to a data frame, which is expected, but this is the real code that I need. Remember, I already have the data, right? So it's just trying to create an artificial data for me to test it. But this is the real code. It says, this exactly will do what I want. And now it says, replace the sample data with your actual employee data set. Okay. So we can still say, okay, I don't like the way you, let's give another example. I want it by gender, yes. I also want it by, let's say in an employee, well, let me go back up. We have first name, last name, date of birth, gender. Oh, let's also say you should classify. I want it to classify the box plot by department ID, for example. So the advantage also of GenAI is that wherever information I've told it before is still stored. So if I say, no, remake the box plot to include the department, to include plotting the salary by department ID, okay? By department ID. And before we did department ID and gender, right? So to say to create this gives me the code to do that. You can modify the code to use department ID as your X and gender as a hue. This way you will have department salary distribution group by gender. And so it gives me the code to do it. So let me put a stop here. Does anyone have any question? And then it tells you the explanation as well of what it has done, what the code is doing as well. Any question? Okay, maybe before I entertain a question, first, let's do this. Let's say, okay, you have a, Mohammed, 1 minute. Let me just do one more thing. Let's say you are not even writing in Python, you write in HAR. Let's say you write in HAR. I can say, okay, write the Python code above in HAR, because I don't deal with Python. So tell me how to do this in Python in HAR. It gives it to me. So it's still generating the text. And then it gives you an explanation of how to do it in HAR. So you just need to copy this to your HAR terminal and run it. All right, questions now. Mohammed, please go ahead.
Okay, yes, sir. So, the prompt you give, I was thinking you said you have a set of data with the following columns.
Yes.
So I was thinking, is it okay? Should I say with the following variables?
You can use, if you use variables, it should still give you the code. And you also see it will also give you. So whether you say features, variable, columns, does not matter. It will interpret it accurately. That's what you want.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
No problem. So you see how we're able to use it to generate code even in any programming language, whether you want HAR or and so on. Now, there's another aspect. So now I have to say this, that GenAI is not always accurate. So sometimes there could be errors. So let's say, for example, I copy, unfortunately, you know what? I think we should be testing whether this code, if they even work, right? Because someone might be wondering, oh, this is actually even working. I think I have Jupyter Notebook on my system. Let me open it and then we can test it. Sorry, please give me a minute to open. I want to open a Jupyter Notebook so we can test this. Okay. Just open a new notebook. Okay, so we just wrote some code now, right? So let me copy the code that we wrote before, and let's see if it's correct. So we copy, and then I take it. So for you, you'll be copying this to 9, right? Because you want to use, you're actually using 9, right? But I don't know, I'm not an expert in 9 yet. So that's why I'm using a Jupyter Notebook, which is the same thing actually. So the interface should be similar in 9. But because I also don't have the data that we were using before, but because it created me a sample data, so let me use it to test whether this code is really correct, right? So let's do that. So if I run this now, let's see if it works. Oh, it brings up an error. Oh, it says that the error is that I don't have a Seaborn library on my computer. Okay. Now, let's say you even get, some funny errors. Let me see. I thought I used to have Seaborn automatically. Okay, because I don't have Seaborn, let me go back to the code. That's very interesting. So let's tell it to do something else.
Maybe you can share your screen.
Sorry, any question?
I said maybe you can share your screen.
What's your screen again?
Sorry, I thought I'm still sharing. I'm sorry. Okay, good. So this is what happened. Let me go back to show you what I was doing. So what I did was I copied this code, okay? And then I put it on a Jupyter Notebook. So exactly the same thing. Can you see my screen? Please, are you following?
Yes.
Okay. And it's saying that, oh, you don't have this library, Seaborn, installed. Okay. So that's what what the error is. So I could say, okay, because I don't have Seaborn, so I could go back to ChatGPT and say, unfortunately, I do not have Seaborn library on my computer. Can you use another library to produce the Python code? See, certainly, if you don't have Seaborn, you can use matplotlib alone to create a similar box plot. Then it gave me, okay, I think I should have matplotlib at least in this time around. So I can copy it. You see how you can correct your code and go back to ChatGPT and say, okay, please do this for me because I don't have this. Now it's giving me the full code and the explanation. So I copy the code, I go back. There's also a column here, say copy code as well. So which makes it easy so you highlighting it. So I can copy code, then I go back to my Jupyter notebook, and then I can paste it here. You see? So let's run it and see. Oh, it did it for me. You see? So this is the plot of what I wanted. And I didn't make any change at all to the code. Now, let's say, for example, in sometimes, like I said, ChatGPT can be wrong. Sometimes it could make mistakes in the code. So let's say, for example, let me deliberately make some mistake. Let's say I mistakenly, or it put department instead of department ID. Okay. Of course, if I run this code, there'll be an error, right? So if I run it, it gives me a key error. Now, ChatGPT also has the ability to help you find where the error is. So what I can do is I can copy this error. I'll copy this error. Let's say I know nothing about Python, so I don't even know how to trace where the error is. Like, for example, the example I gave before where I didn't import a Seaborn, but if I know nothing about Python, I won't even know the Seaborn is a problem, right? So I copy it, the error, and then I go to ChatGPT and just say, this is the error obtained when I run the code above. Correct this error for me, and then paste the error. So all I did was just put a comment, you see, and then say, this is the error, correct it for me. Enter. It says the error occurred because the code is trying to reference a non-existent column named department. It should be department ID instead. As specified in initial data, here is the corrected code. Then it corrected it for me. All right. And then you can copy it, go there, and it works. So you can even use it to correct errors. So when you write a code and there's an error comes up and you're trying to figure out where the problem is, you can copy it, paste it on ChatGPT, and to tell you where the error is. Okay. So let's try something even more complicated than just plotting. Let's think about, so we still have our actual code. Now, you see that even here, let me go back before I go to something, another topic, another part of this. You see that I was referring to a code he wrote above, even though I don't have that code in my new prompt. The reason is because each time you had an information, so if you go to on my left here, I have different charts. So you can create a new chart. So any new chart you create, it all the information you've asked it is still stored. So each time you give it any question, it will read through all the conversation previously to understand the full context and then answer your question. So he still knows my initial code. He still knows what I was talking about from the beginning, as long as you are within the chat. But the problem is, the longer your chat, as the chat gets longer, sometimes it starts to forget some of your previous conversation. Now, let's say you don't want to create a new chat, but you want to talk about something completely else. Let's say now we've talked about the employee data set. Let's say we want to talk about a different data set, and we don't want it to refer to employee anymore. We want to discuss about something else. We can tell it to do that. So I can say, ignore all my previous comments. So once I say the word ignore is extremely important. So once I say ignore it, it will tell me, oh, got it. Let me know how I can help from scratch. Now it has forgotten what I've told it before. Everything I've asked it is gone. So now we can ask it another question. Now, before I move on, I want to just give us some more information about how to make your prompt even better. One way to make it even better is to give it examples. So I don't want to talk in general. I think in the context of writing the code, sometimes it might be confusing. But let me see which other data do we have again. Let me see if we can talk about that data. Okay, I think I have the okay, let's use the superstore data, for example. Okay, let's say we have the superstore data and, oh, okay, I think I know what I would do, what we'll do next. So let me share the superstore data for you to see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So we have the superstore data, all of this. And let's say, for example, I have all these cities, right? But definitely when I want to change this column completely. So I want it to give me abbreviations from these cities. Okay. I want it to give me for each of these cities, let's say Los Angeles should be LA. If it's just Madison, it should just create some interesting letters to represent each of these cities, okay? But I don't want to be doing this one by one by myself. So, oh, Madison should be maybe HDR, Los Angeles should be LA, then Fort Worth should be FW. I don't want to do that by myself. I want the computer to do it for me, right? And I want ChatGPT to write the code for me, and then maybe possibly, write the code for me. But first of all, let's just ask ChatGPT to be able to do this in a more systematic way. So first of all, let me go back to my where is it? Okay, good. ChatGPT. Okay, good. Now, let's say I want to create abbreviation for a city, okay, in the world, okay. Now, if I just say I want to create abbreviation for any city in the world, and then I say, what is the abbreviation for Lagos? Now, it will be confusing, but let's see what's going to do. Let's start from that. The commonly used abbreviation for Lagos is LOS. Okay, that's correct, actually. And then it says blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. Now, but let's say you have, now it will just look through its whole, information that it has been modeled with, and then try to find where as abbreviation for Lagos has been used, and then it will just give me. But let's say this LOS is wrong. We don't want it to be LOS. We want it to be LGS, for example. Then this is where giving the model an example helps. Okay. So let's say I want you to, so let me copy, let's start all over again. Let me copy the initial prompt I have. If I bring it here, and then I say, for example, Lagos should be abbreviated as LGS. Okay. Then I ask, what is the abbreviation? Oh, sorry, I should be removing this. For example, okay. So what is the abbreviation for Ibadan? So this is where giving an example helps. So what do you think it's going to have as abbreviation? Okay, let's try. Let's see what's going to give us. Now, it immediately sees a pattern. Okay, let's see what it says. It immediately sees a pattern in what I did, in the example I gave it. It says, if we follow a similar pattern for your example for Lagos, using the first three consonants in order, Ibadan should be IBD. So it has the ability to learn from your example. So sometimes adding an example to it makes it works even much better. Okay. And we can use this as well for our code. So I can say, okay, based on the pattern above, write a Python code to change, to create a new column in my superstore data set. Write a Python code to create a new column in my superstore data set containing the abbreviation of the city colon, right? So it knows that there is a column name, there has to be an order ID, there must be a city. So his job is to create a new column that will give me abbreviations for the city column. So he immediately created an example for it, and then he created a function, a Python function that will create abbreviation for a city. You see how this is interesting. So based on the logic that I gave it before, he understands that logic and immediately creates a function to do that logic. And so all I need to do is just copy this or copy code and then go to my Python. Let's go to Jupyter Notebook and paste. And then if I run this, immediately you see it created the abbreviation column and with all of the names, abbreviated based on the logic that I gave. Okay, let me stop here. Question before I move on. Any question? Okay, I think I will stop here. I think I've used more than the time I'm supposed to use. So he will then talk about how to, when you use ChatGPT to generate the code, how can you then transfer it to KNIME to run it on KNIME, okay? Austin, over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Stewart.
I'll make you the co-host. Okay.
Thanks. My video is not it's not in good shape, so yeah. Thanks for for explaining how to generate codes. And I would continue from where my colleagues stopped. And so the idea is actually to, KNIME is, yes, let me share my screen. Yeah, so KNIME is a good platform. However, there can be some limitation, or I don't know how to specifically say this, but based on experience, it's not, we have the notes, very useful to do a lot of things, but what happens when probably you can't find a node, to achieve a particular task? And yeah, so the question is, how do I proceed so as not to stuck in a particular node in your workflow? So the idea is to, you can always control the kind of node you want. You can build your code, your node based on, based on some scripting programming languages like Python, like my colleague also mentioned. And I'm going to use probably one of the examples he has used to explain. So if you're not the type that likes to write code, probably ChatGPT might be good. But sometimes it's always good to know how to at least write basic code so you don't get stuck in KNIME. Most times you would have to implement your node via some scripting programming language like Python, or you also have R. Here you also see Java or something. But let's focus on Python, since it's a very popular data analytics framework language. So I would just use some one of the data we used. So I think somewhere last week we stopped here before I exported it as Excel. So yeah. Now I'm going to the Python nodes, I think, doesn't come by default with the KNIME software. So you have to always install it. I think I mentioned it the last time. So there are some install KNIME extensions. So if you search through, for example, this node repository, and you can't find the node you want, and you are sure that the node exists, so it means you have to install it. You have to install it as an extension. So I've installed mine, Python, but I think it's the case that you wouldn't find it if you have not installed it. So you just, no, not preference. You go to install KNIME extensions, then you can search. You can search for what you're looking for. Yes. So, for example, if you want Python, you can just search, and you can, it would load, and you would see some extensions for Python. And then you can, as you can see, so if you want maybe, I think because I already have my notes here, I already have the Python installed. So, but if you don't have the Python installed, you can search through what you're looking for. So it's a lot here. You can just search for probably, if you like to do image processing things, I think it's also nice to install this extension. And there are also some KNIME AI assistant extension. I never tried this, but you can have a look. Yeah, you would also find Python, but I think because I already have my Python, you can't find it here. But you can see, you can always choose, you know, what you want. So for example, I can come here, KNIME and extensions, and you would see a lot of extensions. So you can search for, yeah, for example, R here or something. So I've installed mine. You can just come here and you can, search. And after installation, after installing this extension, I'm trying to see if it's possible to do an example, just to show us. Unfortunately, I've already installed mine. So if, for example, this Python node is something like here, just click it and you click next and you're good to go. Or you see some other prompt, then you can install it. And once you install it, you can come and search for it here. So when I installed my own Python node, yeah, it appears here. So, and now let's work with, let's see if we can play around with this Python node to see. Python node itself is a node where you can write your Python script, a normal Python script. And for example, you can easily drag the Python script node, and you can join, once you join it, and you double click on the configuration, you'll see some interesting things. But before we go into this, this might not really make sense, but first let me try to, before I connect the Python node, I want to just explain something to you. So in the Python node, we always have an incoming port and outgoing port. So the incoming port means it is expecting something, from it is expecting a node or whatever. It is expecting it, some information or data from a node. So, and the outgoing port means it is sending this information to maybe another node. Now, what if I want to just work with this Python script, assuming I don't have any data? So you can easily remove ports. I didn't talk about this the last time, but you can decide your Python node could be the starting point of your workflow. For example, in this CSV reader, you can see there is no import, there is no incoming port, because of course in the CSV reader, we don't expect to pass information from one node to this CSV reader. We always try to read it from probably our local machine or something. So, but in the case of Python's node, you can easily, you can remove the input table and leave only the output table. So when you remove it, you see that the input port is gone, and then we have our Python script. And what I intend to show you is, yeah, in as much as Python scripts are exactly as we would have it in KNIME, but there are also some libraries we have to import. So by default, the KNIME software comes with some pre-installed Python libraries. And if you don't have this, if you want to do more advanced data manipulation and you don't have this KNIME, you don't have this library installed, I think you can just you can directly connect your Python path from your local machine to KNIME. But if you don't, there is also a way, which also I might not talk about in this class, but the idea is to, for example, if I'm importing KNIME.scripting.io as new, KNIME is importing KNIME is a library in Python. And so the idea is, so let's assume you can see we are importing NumPy or Pandas. These are just libraries for, we can use for data things. And then now, if you look at the top left here, we have the output table because we have removed the input, the incoming node. You understand? So here we only have the output table. What it means is that we are only expecting an output table, not an input table, because there is no incoming node anymore in in the node. There's no incoming port in the node. So now, how do we create the data from a raw Python node? So now the output table always come in this form. So what it means is that we can always have several output nodes, depends on the number of output nodes we specify. In this case, we have just one output node, and that is why it always takes the index 0. It's also possible to add more output. You can add more output table. For example, we have 2 output nodes now. So when you go back to the configuration, you see 2 output tables. So what it means is that you can use the indexing. So if I want to, this first table is for this, and this, when you change the index here to 1, you get a completely different table if we would define. So let's assume that we want to run this simple, as you can see, new.table.fromPandas. So the new library itself ensures that in KNIME directly, we need to confirm, or we need to convert the pandas to KNIME table. So it's like, it's just what it is. So pandas doesn't directly work as would always go directly in Python. So the idea is, if you want to export any information, any data from your Python node, you have to convert it to KNIME table format so that you can proceed with your workflow. So, but I will explain. It doesn't. So if you understand very well how to build, how to create a simple pandas table, you will just know that this is just a simple table that I create in pandas. As you can see, it's just this is a random integer. We have 10 by 2, 10 rows and 2 columns, and these are just default from 0 to 100. We have 2 columns, and now we wouldn't just, if we try to export it directly as this data frame pandas, it's not going to work. And this is because, like I said, by default, we have to convert the pandas to, to the appropriate valid table format, which is new.table.fromPandas. Then you put in the data frame you must have probably worked with or manipulated. So when you run this node, you get something. Okay, it doesn't work. Okay, output 1. So this is because we used we specified 2 outputs. Yeah, so we are going to come back to that. Let's remove the output table for now, and let's run our script. So what you have is the table that we generated. This is just a simple table, and as you can see, is the it's the it's the first column and second column and the random integer we generated. Yeah, so now the question is, can we have more output tables? But that's not the main. So the idea, the main, what I actually want to talk about is how we can, create table. We can manipulate tables in Python nodes, and basically here, now we created this table, right, for just to show, to illustrate, just for illustration. But let's work with pre-existing data from our workflow. But of course, like I said, the index here specify the index of the output data. So if we are going to have maybe another table, let's say I have to, and that means this is the first pandas table, and this is the second pandas table. So let's just do a copy paste. And so we can create the second data pandas. And now in the two, before I run this, I have to specify that I'm having two output table. So this can run. And what KNIME would do is KNIME is going to, if you come here, you would see that we have two tables. The first table is belongs to the first index, and the second table here belongs to the second index. So you can always have more than one table to work with. You understand? So, but let's remove the port, and let's connect this. So I won't delete this. Let's drag another new Python script. And so let's connect the last sorting node to it. So remember here we sorted the data of this of the data we discussed last week. That is the sample superstore table where we had some shipment information. And so here, when we connect the node to the Python script, what you basically see is you see an input table and you see an output table. And the input table only appears here because there is an input port, there is an incoming port. You understand? There is an incoming port to there's an incoming port. You can see the incoming port here, and that's why you see the input table. You can also have more than one input table, and that means you need to have more than one input port. So, and how do we know which table belongs to which port? So, like in Python, the index starts with 0, and if you look at these new input tables, it means we are grabbing the first, data, so from the first port. In this case, we just have one input port, so it takes 0. If you're going to add another port, then you know that you can access that table through the number one index. And also the output table is only one output, so we can also access it with, the number one. Yeah, if we have two tables, incoming and outgoing, we would have something like this. Now let's focus on just one port. So what is all of this thing? So now Python is telling us, okay, we have an input table with this information, the ship mode, all of this data comes from the last node in our workflow, as you can see. And here we have the flow variable. Yeah, we won't talk for now. I will talk about that later. But let's focus on this input and output table. So in the output table, we don't have one yet. And yeah, it's just the input that is available for now. So we have this information. So now, when we have an incoming table, in a node, what basically a node would process is output or input. So what is coming in has already entered, right? For example, if we pass information from this node to Python, the incoming node has all of this data. There's no way you cannot control, or you cannot delete it, let me say, because it's already it's the information you're passing onto the node. So now the question is, what do I need to output? So just like how we do some data manipulation or something, we can decide to manipulate the data, do what we want, and we can output it, or we can, send it out. Now, in this case, this is what the output looks like. Like I said, for every output, you must specify the index so you have to specify the index of the output table And this is very important because you need to know how to access your output tables. In the case where you have more than one output port, you have to specify. So 0 means, okay, the output table is in the 0th index, which means it's in the first, it's the one at the top. Or let's say in order of arrangement, it comes first. If we continue to add more nodes, then the index will be increasing by 1, by count of 1, right? And yeah, that is basically it. Now, the question is, what do we have to do? How do we manipulate this table? And how do we output it and continue with our workflow? So my colleague did an example of how to name cities, something like that. And we are going to work with that ChatGPT code we are going to use that ChatGPT code, to explain how code generation can work in general. Now, let's close this and let's go back to our input node. And if you look at our input node, we would see that we have some city, HO, Houston. Okay, this is just one city because we have filtered it. We have filtered out only Houston. So I think I don't want to use this. I don't want to filter. I want to, of course, you can always arrange your workflow. So, sorry, it might be a bit rough in this section, but always try as much as possible to make your code clean. So I don't want to filter based on city and state. I want to just retain, the original form of the data. So yes, because I want to explain something that the Python node will do. Or I could just bring this Python node to this other part that we didn't, that's to filter with the row-based filter where we can do we can add multiple conditions to filter. So I think it's good. We can continue okay, I think this also, I can delete this, but of course you don't have to delete it when you're working with it in your workflow. So I just want to connect the Python node to the original data directly from the CSV file. So the output node can go in any direction. It doesn't matter. It's not, it doesn't have to, you can see we have in one node, we have 3 output. This is because you can pass information from one node to different nodes. For example, we have the CSV reader, we pass it to the summary statistics node. We can also pass the data to some other nodes. We can pass it to other nodes. So it doesn't matter. Depending on, you can work with different nodes. Probably you want to do some things and you always want it to, or something like this, the operation here doesn't depend on probably some intermediate nodes. And you can, for example, in our case now, we want to rename probably, we want to rename the city. Like, for example, the state. We want to use the first 3 abbreviation or something, like as my colleague did. So we are going to use that code to check how we can, for every state, we want to use the first 3 character to represent the state. I guess that was what the code from ChatGPT was doing. But I'm going to still explain I'm going to still explain some other things. But let's focus on how to just work with this ChatGPT node and Python and ChatGPT script and Python node. So let's open the Python script. And now, what's the first thing to do? The first thing is we have our input table. This input table is in a KNIME table format. We cannot directly work with it in Pandas. So we can import our Pandas as PD, because what we want to do basically is to first convert the data we want to manipulate into Pandas. Then when we are done, we take it back to KNIME. But what you see directly is just Python. The default is it's just sending the incoming table directly to the output. It's just sending the incoming. So, but in this case, we still want to do some manipulation of the input data. So let's first remove this. And this is because we want to do something like this. Like we want to just, we know that this is the incoming data, right? And we can always access the incoming data from the, from the input tables via the index. Like I said, every input port has index. And since we just have one input port, it's okay to index 0. If you have 2 input ports, you can always, grab the second table or data from the, just with the 1 increment. Okay, good. So that is the that is for the incoming data. Now the next thing is, how can we convert the incoming data to pandas? So because the incoming data doesn't have the pandas format, by default it takes the KNIME format. And if we try to do some pandas operation via this incoming data directly, we are going to get some errors. For example, if we want to maybe, as we would always do in pandas, let's say we want to print the, let's say, want to display the first 5 rows, right? And if you run it, it's going to show some error because it says arrow source object has no attribute head. But normally in pandas, you know that this head would display the first 5 rows. And this is because, like I said, the table by default in KNIME, it's not pandas. It doesn't have this Python framework, or it's in a completely different object. It's not a pandas object. So to convert it to PD, that is to pandas, so we can, we can now put it to data frame. So where we know that the data frame is pandas format. So we can just, write the incoming data then from pandas. As you can also see, there is also by default a nice library where we can carry out our pandas. So when we convert this to pandas, now we can proceed with the Python manipulation. And when you line 8 data, okay. It's missing one. Okay. Okay. So I'm supposed to say no. It says line 8. Okay. I guess it's supposed to be from pandas. I guess we have to check that out there. Okay. So we can check also from here. I'm not sure. Near the table. Okay. We can also read the documentation. But did anything change? Yes. Normally I can do this. Yeah, it should be dot from pandas. Okay. That's strange. It's telling me to put from pandas, text the data. Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, from pandas. That's strange. Yes, pandas data frame factory table from pandas. Okay, I guess this is how we should define it. This is completely different from the previous version. Okay, so it's telling us now to use the table dot from pandas, and then we have to put in the okay. Now I see where the error is coming from. So we are not here. So basically what I'm doing is trying to, for the export of the table. So yeah, I think it should be the reverse. I have to, what is this? New dot. Oh, it's a bit strange. Yeah, we can Google. Yeah. We can convert the KNIME table to pandas. Yes, sometimes it happens that you get lost or something don't work as you would expect, but yeah, you can always go to the internet. So here, what do we have? We have then input tables. Okay, doesn't look like we have what we need here. So define it as my data frame in Python. Okay, just a moment. Normally, okay, this is different. Input table. Yes. Okay. Okay, it is supposed to be two pandas. Yeah, I think that's the error. Yeah. Yes. So sometimes you don't keep everything in the head, but you can always go to, yes, to pandas. Yeah, that is the difference. So when you're converting to pandas, you use two pandas. When you're going back to KNIME table, you use from pandas. I guess that was the error. So I think if you run this, we can get our result. And what does it say? Okay, yes, because by default, if you don't specify the output node, it's going to throw an error. But at least at this point, it works because now our table is now in pandas format. And now, of course, let's to just ensure that this error doesn't happen. Now we want to, let's assume we are done with our manipulation. Of course, we are not done, but the output, so you have to specify always with the index, and you can use the incoming data frame. You cannot send it back from pandas. No, we have to use the new dot table and dot from pandas. So from pandas ensures that the data that we are trying to send is coming from pandas. So at least with this, the error disappears, and yeah. But before you run the node, you can always check if your script works. At least you can run everything here before you even think about before you can think about running the node from the user interface. Now, what do we want to do? My colleague already did some nice things. So what he did was let's save this and let's go back to our table. We just want to, for example, for the state, we want to use the first three characters of the city, the state. So I'm going to copy his code. I think, yes. So I'm going to copy his code, and we can just try to play around with it and see what we can do with Python. You can also use R. If you're more comfortable with R, you can use anything. You just have to search for the node and play around with it. But normally, every node has its own rules and conditions. You have to, for example, for Python, if you're sending an incoming node, if you're sending some data to the incoming Python node, you have to always convert it to pandas first. So I think that was the mistake I was making. I was using from pandas, but of course, because I had a long day and I just completely, nice, because we are moving from the incoming data, which is in KNIME format, to pandas, and then we are going back to the KNIME table from pandas. It's as simple as that. So let us copy, I want to copy the code of my colleague, and he did some examples here where these are some sample data frame where we have the order ID, city, and sales. In this case, let's assume that this city is our own city here. Remember, we want to use the first 3 characters of the name of the city. So everything makes sense, just that we won't be working with his own data. We'll be working with our own data frame. And since we don't want to change the code that we generated from ChatGPT prompt, I can just indirectly work with this data frame name called table or superstore per se, because it's the superstore table that is in the pandas, object. So what I can do is I can just easily come here and rename this incoming data, whatever, to superstore, and then I can delete this because we know that the city in the sample data is exactly the same as what we have in our own input data. So we don't even need to change anything. And since the whole idea of the city is just to abbreviate the city to, I think, the first 3 characters or so, then it makes sense to use the code directly. So we delete this, we don't need it. The other ID is not of importance to us. The sales is not of importance. It's just the city, as you can see, where the whole manipulation happens. And then we can delete this. And now we can also delete this because, of course, we have our superstore data, which is coming from the incoming port. And now we created a function that takes in the name of the city. In this case, takes in the name of the city from our data, Florida, Houston, or whatever. And then it replaces, of course, if there are spaces, in our case, it replaces the, if there is some space. So let's try to see what if we have, in our case, it doesn't matter because, well, if we have a city that for example, if we have 2 words for the name of a city, then it's going to combine, as you can see, it's going to replace this white space to no space, and it's going to take it's going to convert it to uppercase. So, but in our case, let's check our data again. If we have something like that, well, it's possible, but I don't think so. Everything is okay, like New York, it's going to convert this New York to, it's going to just merge the whole New York. But I think the standard abbreviation for New York is supposed to be NY, right? But I don't know what.
Let me come in here. So we were trying to give the ChatGPT a logic.
Okay.
That, let's say, for example, I want to create my own abbreviation. So it's not
Okay,
like
cool. Okay.
And we want it to be a specific way. So I gave ChatGPT the logic, and then I gave an example. So the example already encoded the logic that I wanted. Then I told it, okay, if I give it that city, do it exactly like my example. So that's why.
Okay.
So
Okay,
they
perfect.
gave me a code to do it automatically.
Yes. Okay, it makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I understand now. Yeah, of course, the idea of the teaching itself is not to, I just wanted to be sure that, okay, so let's just assume that we are still working with the same idea of my colleague. So now we remove the spaces and convert to uppercase. And then we extract the consonant. So the consonant is let's focus on what we do some characters in the city, if character is an alphabet and not in A, E, I, O,
So
U.
the entire code was generated by ChatGPT. So
yes.
The most important thing is he did what we wanted. So
yes, of course. Yeah, but it's also good for us to also understand. Like, of course, I'm just saying because sometimes ChatGPT also can make mistakes, and it doesn't make sense that you just struggle with with codes that you don't understand. So I'm just trying to see if we can also resonate with the idea of the code. You understand?
Problem. Yeah, that's
fine. Yes. So we have the city. It replaces the city with and what I'm going to do per se, it's not to just directly do this particular thing. I will take it step by step, because in as much as ChatGPT is good at generating code, it's also good for us to know how to write simple codes, especially to manipulate simple things like this. So let's take it one step at a time. Let me just assume that we just want to replace the space bar with nothing. So that is, every white space in the city would just shrink out. And you see what we have in the replace method, the function takes in what we want and what we need. No, what we have and what we need. So here we want all white space, that is, white space to we want it to so we want to close every white space. So as you can see, in between this double column, no, this yeah. Okay, yeah. So in between these inverted so here we have white space, and here we don't have. So this is, we just want to close this white space. And what you see here is just everything you want as a string or something like that. Yes, and then let us return the city. We'll take it one step at a time. So we return, a moment, please. Yeah, we return the city. So for now, let's just assume that we are not, we are not trying to do anything. We just want to replace this white space inside this, inverted commas or something. Yeah, we want to close it up, and then we return the city. So let's see what we would get. And then here we create a new column called the city abbreviation. Then we have our superstore city. The superstore, of course, is the name of our incoming data, which we have here. And then we want to create a new column called the city abbreviation. And then we can use the apply function. The apply function is also something that uses a kind of for loop. It loops through every information in the superstore city, and it applies this method on this particular column, specified column. So let us, of course, we know when we are exporting our table, we need to use the updated superstore. So once we run it, we see that we have now, okay. No, let me run it from the outside node so that we can see the new column. Yeah. So now in our new, as you can see, this is what so here we have our city, here we have our city abbreviation. So what the code is just doing is to remove every white space. For example, Los Angeles, it removes that white space and it joins the two words. And also it converts it to uppercase because that is what we specified in the Python script. So basically what the script is doing is just every white space is being, deleted. So just everything that has white space, remove the white space and join everything. So, and this upper converts it to uppercase. Now let's go into the next one, which is extract the consonant. Now the consonant is just basically, what is the consonant? What is the goal of the consonant? Something here is not defined. Okay. Okay, yeah, because we didn't return the consonant. Yes, I think that will be the part that we are now going to comment out how we are done. So the consonant itself is, first of all, we loop through some yeah, we look through from character in city. If the character is an alphabet, so that is the character is yeah, it's a letter or something, and you know, and the character is not a vowel or so. So what it means is that it is only going to consider the consonant, and that is what you see here. So, for example, let's take Anderson, for example. It starts to loop from H to O. Now, for H, it's going to check this for the alphabet H. It's going to ask, is H an alphabet? Yes. And is H is not in A, I, O, U, then this condition will be true. And as long as this condition is true, it will be added to the list. And then it continues like that. It takes E. E is not going to appear in our list because E is in A, I, O, U. So what this one is just doing is it's just trying to ensure that any of these character doesn't it's not a vowel or something. So it's going to ignore completely all the vowels in this city name. So for example, E would disappear, E would disappear, O would disappear, O would disappear here, A, E, and then everything that is left will be consonant. So based on the assumption of my colleague and based on the condition he wants, that is exactly what we also want in this case, because it's not always straightforward to always do this within the nodes installed with the nodes that comes with KNIME, or probably it's possible, yeah, maybe, but you have to look for how you can rename or do some other manipulation, but it's not straightforward to see exactly this kind of manipulation, because it contains too many logics, and we cannot say exactly if there is one node that has been specially designed for such a task, because I think this what we want might just be very weird. Like in this case, we don't want vowels in the abbreviation. We just want the vowel. We want the abbreviation of every city to be pure consonant. And this might not always be the case, but let's work with this, and we can later remove this condition. We can just focus on if it's an alphabet, which is always the case, because we don't always expect a city to have a number or something. And if it does, it's going to skip it, probably due to some errors or some mistakes during the data, when they were gathering the data. So, and it just ensures that everything that would be included in the abbreviation is only alphabet, which makes sense. But for this other one, we can ignore, we can remove that. But for now, let's just leave it. And then we now take the first three consonants. So it takes the first three consonants, and what you see here in Python is just to slice. So it's going to slice the first, what this is doing is it will slice through until the third character, and then it is going to join it with the first three character. Okay, then dot upper converts it to upper, then takes the first three character. Okay, so that means we just have some. Okay, yeah, I guess it's a bit weird, but let's just work with it and let's see what it's going to give us. Yes, as you can see, looks nice. I think, yeah, it looks nice because, but here in Texas, we have FRT. Wow. So, no. Okay, this is the city, sorry, FRT. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's the city we are working with. So basically so this is what we have achieved. So yeah, it makes sense, because now we can see that we have achieved this abbreviation thing in Python, even while working in KNIME. So I'm looking for New York. I'm curious to see what is New York. Oh, New York is okay, it's a state, sorry. Yes, okay, I think it's also a city, yeah. Okay, it ends in a NWY. So now, if I would explain again what the code is doing. Now, so basically, I mean, I won't really say, okay, this is what we, so the main purpose is just to show us that we can do so many manipulations. So we can decide to take all of these out and we can stick with vowels. We can decide to just leave it like this, which I also feel it's okay. So what it's going to return, of course, we know what this is doing. Now, when we grab all for a particular city, when we grab the consonant, we are going to take the first three consonants and we are going to grab also the first three letters from the city. We turn them to upper and we grab the first three characters. But I think this is just pure repetition because it's going to completely ignore this. When you add two strings together in Python, you get it concats the string. So let's say in this case we have the consonant in this city to be HND. It is going to take the HND, that is the first three consonant, and then it is going to add to the first three character of the original, the name of the original that is this one that we replaced with, we removed the white space, and it grabs the first three. But I'm wondering why. Let's assume that we don't want to use the first three, we want to use the first five. Yeah. Of course, we will still get the result because it can only, as you can see now, and this H3 here comes from the fact that the name of the city itself, which is Henderson, here has this HEN as the first three character. So what this guy is doing here is just to grab the first three character from the city as it is in the data. So in this case, we have HEN. Here we have HND. So it's going to say HND plus HEN. It will be HND, HEN. So this is what we have at this point. And now we are not going to slice through the first three. So it's still going to take HND. So if we would really want to stick with the idea of using only the first three consonants, I think this is not necessary because at the end of the day, if we are only slicing to the first three, this is just exactly just because the consonant is coming first and we are adding the last, the first three character from the original name of the city to the first three character in the consonant. And in the end, at the end of the day, we'll still just grab the first three. So which is just basically this. So let's remove this because it's redundant. And then we are still going to get the same result because after all, it's still going to be the first three character. And then, yeah, we here we call the function we use the apply function when you want to, probably focus on applying a particular method on, on a pandas column or list of numbers or something that you would normally want to apply a for loop. So I think this is more effective. And then, yeah, we are done. So now, yeah, so we have our data, we have our manipulated data, and then we have our abbreviation. So it makes sense because ordinarily, I don't know, of course, you can do it in KNIME, but let's see if we can replace, or I don't really know how it is possible, to manipulate string manipulation. Let's see, because there is a node here called string manipulation. Here, we cannot particularly say string replacer because we want to make it dynamic. So let's use string manipulation. Let's see, or let's focus on a column. Sometimes you can just do a search and always, column renamer or, something like that. Let's look at string manipulation. Let's see if it might achieve this particular task. I never tried this, but let's see. let's see what we want to manipulate. Maybe it works, maybe I don't know. So we have to check. But if they are if they are built-in nodes that can achieve a task, fine, you can use it. And now you can see there is a column called replace here, I see. So let's see, there is also, we can also write our expression, you know, if we want, but let us start with the replacing first. Let's see. I see here it says a replace, just as we have it in Python. Of course, we can replace, you know, if this is the original string, we can replace, we can remove all ABs. And I think it would just remove every AB. And what am I seeing here? AB, AB. And then we are left with CC. Okay, and here we can also do the same. If we want, here we replaced all AB in this string with empty string. So in this inverted column, we see that this is the original string, but we want to replace every AB with empty string. So AB with empty string is nothing, so we just have C. AB also with empty string is nothing, so we just have CC left. And if this is another example, if we want to replace AB with Z, it means AB would be Z, so we would have ZC here. So let us apply it to the logic of how we wrote it in Python. So let's see if we can, the string that we want is the city, right? And as you can see, the columns have to be written in inside a dollar sign. And then what do we want to replace? We want to replace every empty, every white space with empty, with no space. And this is exactly what the first part of the script, you know. And then let's see, let us append a new column. Let's say new city, you know. Yeah, let's just use new city so that we can KNIME node so that we can differentiate, we can actually see. Let's run this. Let's run this and let's see. Okay, let's see what we would have. Okay, now we have our new city. Remember, this is just directly from the data we read. So as you can see, city, new city. So, but here it's not the uppercase because in the Python node, we indicated uppercase. So let's see if we can also do the same thing here. If there is uppercase, and here there is also uppercase. So let's see if we can uppercase. We can also now replace this we can make this, I think it should work. We can wrap the replace inside the uppercase. Only will be applying. Okay. So I hope it works. Otherwise, okay, we can. Okay, now it works. So the idea is just, yeah, I never used this node before, and you can just continue to play around with it. Yeah, of course, some nodes might exist for a particular task, but you have to search for it. Now we first replace our all the strings in the city column. We replace all the white space with no space, and that's exactly what we did in Python. So let's see if there is a way we can grab the first 3 character or consonant. I think it's just purely consonant. So it's not going to be easy because that is where the that is where the problem comes, because there might not be a function here that we just grab only consonant, unless if it exists. I don't know. Maybe we can also check. You can check, keep checking, but at the end of the day, we might be stuck, you know, and you won't know how to proceed. I mean, this is just an example, you know. You can have more complicated tasks. So I might not be able to use one very huge task to explain this, but I think this very simple example is a good illustration of how KNIME framework can be very limiting, to achieve a particular task. And the person who is using Python in this case and is able to proceed with his workflow faster than somebody who is just relying on, you're relying on the node in KNIME. So unfortunately, there is no way I can proceed with this, but maybe let's check consonant or no, or letter or manipulation. That is how sometimes you can search. If you can, I think the only way is string manipulation, which is the closest to, but I doubt if it can really work to that point of grabbing only consonant. If you have better idea, if you feel, okay, we can achieve what we achieved in Python, we can achieve in the KNIME node what we achieved in Python, then you can also give it a shot. Why not? If there is a node that can achieve that task, yes, do it. And now we are done with this part. So the idea of Python script, like I said, is we always just have that you have an incoming node in the case that you already have some pre-processed data, and then you have to convert the incoming node is in a KNIME table, which is not compatible with the standard pandas library. So you have to convert it to pandas with this method to pandas, and then you can continue. And then after you are done, you can now output your table in the index 0, or depending on the number of output ports you have, and then you can now take it back to KNIME table from pandas, and you just put in your data frame here. So we are done with this part, and yeah, it's very useful. Now another thing I want to talk about is how to use before I end this class, how to use flow variables. Now, the last time we talked about row filters. I'm going to delete this statistics table. Last week we talked about plot. I guess we don't have problem with plots, with plotting. You can always play around with the plot nodes. If you want histogram, you can also grab a histogram from here. So next week, I'm going to talk about how we can clean our node, so it doesn't get too messy. Because I decided to make it messy like this because at some point the whole thing just becomes really terrible, and you don't know which is which. And as a matter of fact, I didn't name my node, so it's a very bad practice. Always name your node. So for me, I didn't, but you have to name it. Now I don't know what node 16 is doing. I don't even know what node 8. I don't know what it is sorting. I don't know what this histogram is doing. I don't know what this scatter plot is doing. So for histogram, you can always, for example, if you want to get the distribution of the sales, you can plot your sales dimension, and let's save and execute. And here is the distribution of your sales, and it looks like an exponentially declining data. So yeah, for example, we see that most of the sales is it's around 0.44 and something like this, 0.44 and maybe 153 to, this is the 0.44 to 153. And you can see it has a frequency of 285. So most of the shipping falls in this path, and from there it starts to decline, and after 1.5 it is very unlikely. Yeah, so this is basically, you can also try other bar charts. There are bar charts you can play with. Yeah, so I think that shouldn't also be a problem. Now we know what plot is. Now, the last thing now I would like to talk about, I would delete this. Okay, I won't delete it because I would also want to show us something at the end of the day. Now let's focus on, now when we did the filter last week, we just, we just wrote the filter, whatever here. We wrote state equals to Texas, city equals to Houston. Now, what if I don't want to always write Houston here, or I mean like Texas or Houston, or I want a way that this particular variable would be passed downstream to the workflow. That is, anywhere in the workflow, I can always access this variable. Probably you are trying to, for example, the node, so this node comes immediately after this row filter. What if I want to work, on, how can I say? I just want to maybe, so fine, we specify the value here, which is Texas and Houston. Now, the question is, what if I want to grab the name Texas and Houston? That is, I want to grab the name of the state and city somewhere else. Maybe I still want to use the name somewhere. Probably I want to do some manipulations or something. I don't have to always repeat this row filter. And that is where flow variable comes in. Flow variable comes from the fact that so this variable can flow downstream in your workflow. And there are ways to always define variables. So variables are just things that you can always define. Let's see. Yeah, I think there is one that yeah, what is the name of this variable node? But do I have it? No variables. Yeah, I think it's called yeah, I forgot. Oh my God. Okay, I can just search for it also. Workflow control, table. Okay, I cannot remember exactly the name of the node. So we can also search. So it's as simple as that. I need this node. I think the name of the node should be no, I want something else. I'm not completely sure what the name is again, but yes, just give me a couple of seconds to look for it. Constant or something. Variable. Okay, create file or folder variable. Let's see this. No, this is not what this is not what we need. We need variable creator. I think this is what we need. I hope so. Okay, it looks like this is what I need. So now the variable creator comes from the fact that, okay, we want to create a variable and we want to just use this. We want to always control the variable. We want to control the variable only this variable creator. So here, if you noticed, I created the first variable state equals to Texas. So let's see if we can come here. Because my idea is I don't want us to always add code like to write the name of what we want to filter in the row filter. Let's say here state, and let's add another one, which is I'm not sure if the name, okay, the city we chose was Houston. So just an example. So we can create multiple variables. Here we can name it as city, that is Houston. Okay, cool. So we are done, and these are just default values. Yeah, so we have the state and city. Now, where do I need to apply this? Yeah, sorry that it's rough. Next week, I'm just going to talk about how we can clean up our code, but it's normal to always start like this. But because, I also want to show us why sometimes the workflow can get really messy. And why we also need to, we always use the best practice. Yeah. So now in this row variable, what I'm just going to do now, as you can see, this was the old one. I'm just going to connect this thing to the row. So at the top of, you see, a row variable can always connect to, every node at the very top. And this is because the variable can flow into any node. It doesn't have to directly attach itself to this incoming port, but it's just going to stay somewhere up. Yeah, as you can see, variable import. The variable import is just at the very top left, and here also too. I think if you hover on something, yeah, I think you can see it or not. Yeah, probably is until you attach the node. Okay, cool. So now let us attach. So now we don't want to write all of this. Now we are ready to find our state, but we don't want to write Texas here because we don't always want to do the changes from the row filter. So we can come here. Now it says no flow variable selected. Yeah, because now the state and the city that we defined in this variable corrector, we can now see it here. So when you create state and output as flow variable, so you see that override with flow variable. So you can override with flow variable. So you can override the default Texas here now with the row variable. So now we don't have any value here. You can see I try to click now, it doesn't even. So you can decide to delete it even before overwriting it. But in this case, let me delete the Houston. And I can also decide here to use, so it means override with flow variable. It means everything in this value would be overwritten by the variable we define, which in this case now is city. The state here, as the one we define, is now no more Houston, even though we can change it, it doesn't matter. So when you run this code, you will still get our result, and which you see it's filtered. So here we can see it's we have Houston and we have Texas. So what if I want to filter by Florida? Let's just say Florida. I think I have an idea. I don't think it makes sense I don't want to filter with two variables. I just want to filter with only one, so that, yeah, let's leave just the state, and just for some illustration. So I want to just filter only the state. So we have Texas now, because I filtered here, the Texas here, I can delete this. The Texas is only the the city I specified here. So let's assume we want to filter Henderson. I don't need to go to this flow variable. I can just come here and just put here Henderson. And when you run here, we get oh, probably I didn't spell it well. Henderson, okay. Oh, okay, suppose yes, it's supposed to be Henderson. Did I make a mistake? Henderson, yes, that's correct. Okay, yeah. Settings will not change. Okay, now I see. So okay. Henderson. I hope I made the right correction. Okay, what does it tell me here? Node created an empty table. Wow, that is strange. Normally, I should have a table. Okay. Yeah. Override, okay. Oh, okay. That's strange. Henderson, variable name, state, which is exactly what? Oh, city. Okay. I made a mistake. Deleted the city instead of the state. I deleted city instead of state. Okay, now it should work. Okay, and then I have to come here to replace the node because last time it was state. Okay. And same state. City. Or what am I saying? Yeah. Yeah, city and the same. Yeah. And then, oh, I still have state here. Okay. I think I'm making a mistake. So you have to choose the correct, the column itself before you even use the flow variable. The flow variable itself only grabs the value, right? It has nothing to do with the column you specified here as the main filtering column. So when you specify the city, then for the value, you're only just grabbing the value from your flow variable. I think you can also do the same here too. So to ensure that you don't keep changing, for example, formerly it was in state, I have to change to city. It's also good that you can put the name of the whole thing here. Okay, doesn't work. Strange. Okay, so let's stick. Okay, I think it should be here. You can also stick with this. So, city output as flow variable. Okay, none. Okay, I think I leave my city as it is, but somehow we should be able to overwrite it. But because of time, yeah, config is overwritten by flow variable. Okay. Here we can now specify the city. Now this should work. Yeah. We can reset. I don't know what's wrong with my laptop. Okay, time is fast spent. Yeah, sorry for wasting time today. We have our city. Okay, no, still making a mistake here. None. Equal to value city. Okay. Now this should work. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's a lot of you can also be very, sometimes it can happen that you have to be careful so that you apply the right configuration. Yeah. So thank you for today's class, and sorry that I took 3 minutes extra. But if you watch the video, the recording, you can always try this and try a lot of manipulation and play around with it. And the interesting thing about this variable is that we can access it from, for example, in this sorter. So if you run this sorter just as an example, now remember the variable was directly connected to this filter. Now, if we may probably want to sort something based on, we want to use that same variable name or something, you can always access the flow variable. You can see city. So what it means is that even though you have hundreds of nodes in this workflow, as long as there is this connection between nodes, you can transfer, information can flow from one point to another. Now, we cannot access that information here because the variable started from this filter node. So every node downstream of this row filter should be able to access this flow variable. So if I connect this sorter, for example, just as an if I connect this sorter, okay, I've removed the Python. So let me add the input table. If I connect the sorter to this Python node, I should still be able to access this flow variable from this Python node, because you can see it's downstream from this row filter. And where can you get this variable from? Now you can get it from, you can see you can get it from, initially there was no city here, but because we have created this flow variable, we can access it. So you can access it via this, you can see for the table, you can access via this, you can access the first table via this, but the flow variable, you can access it via this. So if I print here, just put new, you can put new dot flow variables. And then when you print this new dot flow variables, you are going to grab the string here. So as you can see, this is the city Anderson. And you can always grab it comes as a dictionary. So city, you can access it now from city. Yeah. Forget about the other ones. It's just error because we didn't do anything. So let's run it again and we see that yeah, because I didn't specify it. But this is just the whole idea, that you can access the flow variable as dictionary. So if you have 10 variables here, we define in your variable creator, you can always access them anywhere in the workflow. Thank you very much, and see you guys next week, where we'll also be building machine learning framework, and we'll end the whole section. So if there are questions, you can ask. Otherwise, then we should be able to end this section. All right. So in the absence of none, I wish you guys a great week ahead. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you very much. You're welcome. All right. Bye.